One of the things I want to talk about, especially in an environment like today, people are looking to buy a new car. There's lots of different options in the market, especially in the range of the Tesla Model 3 that's about what, 50 to $75,000 Canadian out the door. You're looking at Audi A3s, BMW, the 3 Series has been a main contender of all of these cars. What made you decide, you know what, right now is the time to buy an electric vehicle? And I think this is important for a lot of people like yourself because you're thinking about you need a long-term daily driver. You're not buying a car necessarily just for like having it for a year or two. What were those things that were stopping you maybe previously towards buying something like that? And what pushed you over to the edge to say, you know what, it's worth the investment to get an actual electric vehicle?
I originally put my deposit down when the Tesla Model 3 was first announced, so I kind of already had it in my mind. I think I already jumped on the electric bandwagon a little bit earlier just because my family cars, my parents already owned two hybrids before that. We had a Toyota Camry hybrid and a Kia Optima. So I kind of already knew the benefits of going electric or at least the hybrid movement. But yeah, I guess the next step for me was just I saw the Model 3 and it was always my goal to have like a BMW as my life goal of having a
Right.
nicer car. So I was like, this is just an equivalent. If not, it's probably a lot more smarter and a lot more better. Again, back then, I think it was like 2015 or so. I can't remember when it was exactly announced. They didn't have any specs on it. It was just putting $1,000 deposit down, and you're just putting yourself in line for a car for the advertised price of 32,000. I was like, at the time, 32,000 for a electric car was definitely affordable. It was also this is coming up from my other car is a Hyundai Elantra GT, so it was within budget, and I was like, you know what, I could probably move into that, and it's something that you wouldn't have to worry too much about maintenance. Again, Tesla's at the time was fairly new. They only had the S, and then the X just came out more recently, like the 20. I'm just making up numbers, 2016, I think. But they only had a certain amount of information on it, like the data, how long degradation would be. So it wasn't super fully fleshed out yet. Obviously, the car's gotten about a lot better since then. So that's why I didn't initially take the first jump in 2017. Sorry, 2018, I think it was, when it came to Canada. So I think in December or so, 2017 was when it first was launched to the public in 2017 in the US, right? And I know it was like full of lots of problems, like body alignment issues and minor things. So I gave it some time to just wait it out. Like I think I was like I can't remember the term, but like the first person to get in line to see those cars, and I just wanted to see what all the reviews were about first, and see how everyone handled it, especially in Canada with our winter. So after 2 years, they did a lot of the fixes. So by the time I got it in March, they did fix a lot of the body issues, and like with Tesla, they're always improving the car with software updates. So I remember actually, it wasn't even on my radar. And then on September, their sales rep called me and is like, "Hey, you want to come in for a test drive?" I like honestly, I wasn't even thinking of getting a like even buying a car. Like it wasn't on the radar. It was kind of like I had the deposit down. And September they called me randomly out of the nowhere, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come in for a test drive? I noticed that you've had your car for a while. You haven't done anything, or sorry, you had your reservation for a while. You haven't done anything." And I was like, "Sure, why not? I've never driven a car, never sat in a Tesla before, other than in the showroom at Yorkdale." And yeah, I guess at the time it was their first initial their push to meet their Q3 numbers, and they were pushing everything. They were giving color choice. They were giving three options. You can either choose your choice of color for the car, the interior white option, or a set of rims. So you get to choose two out of three options. But the thing is, you have to have it delivered by the end of September, which was kind of expedited because I think they called me mid-September, meaning I had to like make a decision then, have whatever payment to pay for it, and have it in my hands before September 30th so that they can meet their Q3 aggressive Q3 goals.
That sales push, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember driving it for the first time, and it's like they literally just said like, here's a key card, just drive it wherever. And I was just like, no salesperson in the car, you can drive it for as long as you want. So I kind of drove maybe 20 kilometers or so,
They
drove
were
it on the
that easy with it for
yeah,
like a hot Tesla?
yeah, they were just like, yeah, just drive whatever. And yeah, I remember it was like a rainy day. So I was at the Yorkdale, or sorry, not Yorkdale, Lawrence and Don Mills location. And I drove it for like, yeah, 20, 30 minutes, drove it on the highway, drove it around. And then like I let my wife drive it as well. And it was very different because of the regenerative braking. And at the time, they didn't have one pedal driving, but it was still regenerative braking. You didn't have to press the brakes too often. But yeah, it was like compared to a combustion engine car, it's night and day in terms of the experience.
And if you haven't, by the way, seen the video yet, I will link it in the card above for anyone that's interested. I did take the car out for a first drive and review, and a lot of those things that he experienced, I definitely experienced my first time. But at least I had someone to help me walk through it all. So it was quite a jarring experience coming from a regular internal combustion engine.
Yeah. Yeah, the sales guy like didn't really explain anything, just like, here's how to adjust your wheels, when you're braking, or how to turn on the car, how to reverse, and yeah, go have fun. I was like, all right. So yeah, that was September. And after that, it was like always on my mind. I was like, oh, should we not that I would get it right away. Like we have like a Yaris as well. That's our second car. And so in I remember in December, I was thinking, oh, maybe they'll do another Q4 end of the year sales push to be like, here's your free rims, here's your free colors and stuff like that. Obviously, didn't happen. So then I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And I guess so. What kind of I would say what pushed me over to buying the car, but in January, our Yaris shit the bed, and it was pretty much dead. It couldn't like the brakes were dead, and I was like, didn't really feel like it couldn't justify paying to fix it
Right.
opposed to like any value back. So we decided to, look into getting the second car. And I guess Tesla was kind of just like a nice option to have. I guess other cars that I was comparing to, I guess for practicality purposes, I was also looking at like just a regular CUV, just for family purposes and for our daily activities. We do a lot of road trips. We'll go to the cottage and stuff like that. And then the other options, we're looking at the Kona, Hyundai Kona EV.
Yep.
That was kind of like the mid ground. So I think I was looking at the Hyundai Tucson, not relevant or anything, but I was looking at CUVs, Kona EV, and then the Tesla Model 3. I think those were my primary options. I wasn't looking at any other EVs, just because at the time, not even at the time, but there aren't really many options. There's like the Volt, not really feeling it. The Prius, again, not really feeling it.
There
Um,
weren't too many like uber compelling options
yeah,
other than the Tesla for a fully electric car, I don't think, at that
like I
time.
think Audi has I don't know the model, but it's like a e-tron something.
That's still
Uh,
not even out though, right? That's
yeah,
they're coming out with it soon, I heard, which is
I
obviously going to
thought
be
they
competing.
had one model that was like you can go full electric for a certain amount of kilometers, or you can go gas. I don't know which model it is. My friend,
Okay, so that might be a different model than I'm
yeah,
thinking of. They have a new sedan that's coming out,
yeah,
the e-tron, which is going to be competing with Tesla pretty
yeah.
deeply.
So I was comparing the cars, and yeah, Tesla had a lot of perks, but the main con was it was super expensive compared to like all the other cars and everything. And I finally bit the bullet, put an order on like February, and yeah, early February. And I guess it depends on the cycle of where they ship their cars. So I think they'll do regions. They'll do like North America or Canada and US, then they'll do Europe, and they'll do Asia, or just like various like right-hand drive cars. So at least it's staggered, and they just do a bulk shipment. And I just so happened to be like the timing was great, so that I got my Tesla Model 3 within 4 weeks. Usually they say between 5 and 8 weeks. So they were pretty quick. I just so happened like the timing. And yeah, I got it early March. And yeah, it
So
was
did
just a
you go
lot.
on a test drive, by the way, on the Kona? Did you test drive those other cars before you made your decision? It sounded like you
So
kind of made that decision quick.
my mom has a Kona, not the EV, but just a regular Kona. So I already sat in it. I know how it feels like, but I haven't really driven it. In terms of other EVs, my friend has the Hyundai Ioniq EV, and I didn't get to drive it, but I sat as a passenger. It was pretty smooth. I mean, it got a decent amount of acceleration considering it's a electric car, but comparing to a Tesla Model 3, it's not the same in terms of EV, but it doesn't have as much range, I think.
What was it called
Um,
again?
the Ioniq,
Ionic. Is this
yeah.
the ugly one?
Um,
I don't know. I guess that's
It's,
subjective,
I
right?
mean, yeah, I wouldn't say it's ugly, but it's not like
Okay.
it's a, it's like a sedan. It's
It
nothing
looks like a
crazy.
regular
Yeah, it's
Kia
not like,
sedan.
doesn't look like it's a EV. Doesn't look like anything out of the ordinary. But I guess I was more leaning towards the EV or the Tesla, just because one, you know, I own stock for it, so it's almost like I'm already invested in it. And two, I guess it was practical enough. It wasn't like an EV where it's like, oh, you have to do certain things to maintain it, and you don't get the range. And actually, so I was originally looking at the SR Plus just because of the federal rebate, but then I was thinking, for an extra whatever, $10,000 or 15 after tax or something. And then actually even more with the EV rebate or the federal rebate, you get range. And I think that was one of the biggest factors. Range and having all-wheel drive would have been nice. Like I guess with Canadian winters, I had a Super before, so I did miss that all-wheel drive, not safety, but the comfort of and confidence of driving in the winter. And then, yeah, I think those are the two main deal breakers between the SR Plus and the long range, or range, and I think so. It's an extra 100 kilometers of range, but that's even more significant in the winter when winter degradation or winter range degradation is a real thing. I never experienced it, but I read from other people or other reviews that was like between 30 and 50%, which is pretty significant, especially in the winter. Mind you, I'm not sure we're not doing a lot of long range trips, but it's definitely a factor that you have to think of when you are making that decision.
People like you, they're looking at purchasing a new car. Maybe their old one's kicking the pooch. They have a bunch of other options in terms of like EVs, hybrids, or just going full electric. It sounds like to me you made your mind up. Like obviously full electric was the way to go, and it was worth that price premium because you did mention it was a little bit more expensive, probably a lot more expensive than the Kona.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, even the Kona, I think it starts at like 40, 45 or something like that. So,
Okay.
or maybe 40. I could be wrong. You have to double check on that. But yeah, it was more. I think the other thing that pushed me towards Tesla was their infrastructure, their charging infrastructure. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot more charging stations that are specific for Tesla, as well. Tesla being the EV leader, I guess I would assume, a lot of third-party companies want to provide charging for Tesla. So, for example, hotels, restaurants, they all have Tesla chargers because it's an extra incentive for people to go to their restaurant to charge at their place.
Wow, I did not know that. So there are hotels that have these Tesla chargers there?
Yeah. So I don't remember the resort last year. I don't know if you have to exit this out, but they had a Tesla charger there. Or when I go to Prince Edward County, there's a restaurant out there, like a winery that has a Tesla charger, and it's just an extra incentive to go there, charge, eat your dinner, come back, and it's on the house. But it's like it's
Right.
a lot of hotels. It's like it's a little an extra factor to be like, oh, maybe I'll charge it, or I'll go to stay at this hotel because they have a Tesla charger, and I don't have to go. Especially if you're doing a road trip, you don't have to worry about going somewhere else to charge for like 30 minutes, come back to the hotel. You can just leave it there. And yeah, I think with Tesla too, they were just very progressive, I guess progressive is the right word, in terms of coming up with ideas for improving the automotive industry. And it was that next step of how to get the best out of your car. Like you get a car like any other car, and what you get is what you get. You don't get improvements, but you don't really experience those software updates until you get the car and you're like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. It's like your phone. Your phone gets a new iOS update or Android update. Your apps get a better update just to do things better, fix bugs. And yes, your car does have bugs, but I think in today's society, we're almost like used to having bugs. You get a video game, first thing you have to do is download like a 2 gig update just to play it. You get a new phone, first thing you do, update to the latest patch. And yes, you get bugs, you get over it. It's not like making or breaking your life or anything, but
And at least they're fixing it, right? So as
yeah.
long as issues come and you have the ability to get software updates over the air.
Okay, yeah, exactly. It's over the air. You don't, I mean, you could use your Wi-Fi to do it faster, but your car is always connected to not cell service, but like the internet somewhere. And I think I remember reading stories about like Tesla just helping, like they're able to push updates on the fly. Like I remember there was the flooding in, I don't remember, in the States somewhere, like Georgia or Texas. I don't know. I'm just making some random states, like South Carolina or something like that, or hurricane or something like that. And they were able to push an over there update to give cars an extra like 10, 20, 30 kilometers of range just so that they can get out of the hot zone.
I
So,
heard about that. That's crazy.
so like little things like that, it's almost like you would never hear of any other company doing that. Little things like their Google Maps, sorry, not their map, but their maps. It's like based off the Google API. You don't have to worry about updating it. You don't have to worry about looking into or paying companies to update the maps. Like I think
Yes.
BMW makes you pay every year to update their map. It's
Yes. Audi, a lot of the German manufacturers do the exact same thing. It's terrible.
So I guess after reading all those or hearing all those reviews, it's almost like just extra. It's checking a lot of tick boxes you don't think you would need, but it's definitely convenient. But yeah, I think that was almost the natural progression to go, okay, go into the Tesla. Even though I swore to myself I would never buy an American car. This is coming from my parents used to own a Ford Topaz, and it was a
Okay.
big box. So yeah, I said I'd never buy an American car, but I'm glad I did. It's definitely a nice change. And
Yeah, I wouldn't consider this your typical American car that you
yeah,
think of, General Motors, all that
yeah.
stuff. So, it sounds like to me, and maybe I'm wrong, and I only went on the first drive-in review, and that was an amazing experience, but you've had the car for almost a year, you've been driving internal combustion engines for so long previously to that. Do you feel like right now there is anything missing? So for anyone that's looking to buy, they're like, but I'm gonna miss something about a gas engine. Do you have any of that? Do you miss any part of a gasoline engine?
I think the only thing I do miss is the sound of an aftermarket exhaust. Like
Okay,
that is
yes.
the only thing I would probably miss. It's very sometimes it can be therapeutic. If you're a car guy, it
Yeah.
does sound nice and it's almost like too quiet. But honestly, I don't miss much. Like I don't miss going to like the gas station,
Yeah.
especially during COVID. I
Right.
like I never really did too much with the car. Like I don't do oil changes. I don't have to bring it to an oil change. The only service thing that the sales guys, or not the service guys, when you pick up the car, the only thing that they tell you to do is make sure you top up your windshield washer fluid. So you don't have
Mm.
to worry about anything else. I mean, even with the car, you don't change the oil that often. You change it every like 6,000 or 6 months, whatever they say.
Hmm.
But it's just like that extra little task of, oh, I got to book an appointment. I have to go there and do it. And I guess it doesn't cost that much, like 60, $70 or something like that, but it adds up. And then eventually after like a certain amount of kilometers, you have to do a major service. And that's stuff you don't even have to think about I would say an EV. I don't know if it's just Tesla, but with any EV, it's like all these little things you don't have to worry about anymore.